It's the people's think tank, right? It's basically how can we come up with a highly collaborative process that involves all of the people who need to be involved to think through and come up with solutions to really big, really hairy problems.
Next Agenda is a way to solve the world's pressing problems, at least a way to provide, to understand what the solutions might be.
How do you get much larger numbers of smart, innovative, creative people in America, of which we've got tons of people, who have no way to actually impact or contribute to the very valid conversations of how does our country solve these big challenges. And it's not all about just what does Washington do or what does the federal government do, it's just how does our whole country rise to the challenge of climate change.
It's revolutionary. It's also very intuitive, in the sense that when I first heard about it, and I was really surprised that no one had thought about it before. It makes so much sense.
Next Agenda is basically an experiment, and what we're trying to do is take on some of the biggest problems that we face as a society and basically combine ways of bringing people together in person to have collaborative dialogues that move thinking forward, combine that with online tools for helping collaborative thinking and new thinking happen, and combine that with media and video so that when you put all those strands together, we actually have a chance at coming up with some new and better ways of thinking about the problems we're facing so we can actually solve them.
And I think that's another thing that is that I like about Next Agenda too, is it's pragmatic. You know, it's like, let's figure out real practical solutions that we can put in place right now. And sure, there's a pie in the sky thing that we can get to someday, but like, let's see what we can do now and do it.
This is an organization that is strong, well-connected, and is really thinking big and fast and is transparent.
I feel like what Pete's doing is he's taking a process that usually happens behind closed doors with a select group of experts being brought in there. It happens behind closed doors, and this is where policy recommendations get made to our government. And what Pete's doing is he's taking that process and he's opening it up so it's transparent, in the spirit of transparency, in the spirit of open source. He's opening it up not only for people to look at and see what's happening, but also for people to get involved.
My energy on this thing is put on like, how do we crack a new model for involving many, many more kinds of people in this process? And how do we crack a new media model, you could call it, that exposes that process to much wider audiences, much larger numbers of people, so that they can then in turn participate in this process. They can actually also find ways so that they can move the ball and make their impact, do their thing for the country, and be involved in this transformation that's frankly going to take all of us at some level to really pull off.
We're trying to take what's sort of fundamental about who we are as human beings and how we interact and the world today, right? Because that's really what the problems are all about. But also integrating the new opportunities and using those to address different challenges.
I think there's going to be some relief there. I think people are going to be relieved that something else is happening outside of government. I think it's going to be a little nutty. I think it's going to be enormously thought-provoking and heart-provoking.
Next Agenda is exciting.
Next Agenda is wise. I think that's really what we want to be, which is that it's not, again, not just some way to get a bunch of people together to talk about problems, but to get a bunch of people together in sort of a nonpartisan, you know, multilateral way, and to come up with good or great solutions, not just popular solutions.